Premier League season's done. Arsenal finished second yet again to possibly the greatest Premier League side we've ever seen. Certainly the greatest I've ever seen. Would you agree with that statement?
They've got to be right up there in terms of most dominant, anyways.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, no one's done 4 in a row before, and they've gone and done that straight. I think that's like 6 and 7 for Pep or something crazy like that. So
6 in 7 years, yeah.
Yeah. So
4 in a row.
Yeah. So it's clearly, they're right up there with whichever Prem side you want to talk about in history. They've got to be right in that conversation.
Yeah, and obviously us both being Arsenal fans, there was glimmers of hope in my head going into the last day, because you never know. You always have that. Can we get it done? Is a miracle about to happen? But it was just too much of an ask of West Ham to get anything against City. Like they scored in 115 seconds actually, I think, which is quite funny. Obviously with the charges, but, it was too much of an ask, wasn't it?
Yeah, like obviously, like you said, it's football. So going into that day, there is still hope. Like, it's not impossible for City to drop points, but they've done it time and again. They've been there time and again. So realistically, there was only going to be one outcome on that day.
Yeah, and I mean, Arsenal trophyless again, finished second again, but we did concede the fewest amount of goals in the league, and it was our record amount of wins as a club in history. So it's just like, it's getting to the point now. It's like, what else do we have to do, really? Like, I know people look at the Villa game just because that one sticks out.
Yeah.
That loss sticks out amongst loads of wins. But I just feel like if we would have won that Villa game, City would have just ended up with like getting more points. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what we have to do now to beat this team. Do we need to improve our squad? I don't know. What do you think? Where's the next step?
Yeah, well, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago in terms of being ruthless with the squad and strengthening. I think if you want to keep up with them, you're going to have to go again and invest again this summer. I don't think there needs to be massive changes, because clearly that squad's good enough to record the most wins in Arsenal's history, rack up 89 points, and literally go toe-to-toe with City for the whole season. From day 1 to week 38, there was neck and neck. So the squad's quality, but if you want to get the edge over them, I think you're going to have to go again and reinforce certain areas. And there's hope, because the squad's very young. It's still very young. It's not like one of them squads where you're like, oh, if we don't do it this year, it's done now. Like, everyone's past step. Like, the core of the squad and the most important players are pretty much a great age where they should still keep improving over the next 2-3 seasons. So that should give Arsenal fans some hope.
Yeah, I think we have the second youngest squad behind Chelsea in the league.
Yeah.
So that just shows that we're prime. We're ready. We're like the team's in their prime, or maybe just shy of it as well.
Just before, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So and also, like we said before, if you've look where Arsenal have gone since Arteta took over. Like, he took Arsenal over, and we were in a bad place. Like, all the fans were screaming, like, why have we got Arteta in?
Yeah.
We weren't in a good place. And then now you look at the team, like, every single one of the players is buying into what Arteta's doing, like, fully, knee deep. They're buying into it, and there's not one that isn't doing that.
Yeah.
So, and that's hard to do. That is hard to do as a manager. Like, there's probably 2 teams in the league for me that have got that, and that's City and Arsenal.
Yeah.
Villa are nearly there, but it's hard to get every single player, especially when you're not winning, to buy into it, like, without even second guessing.
Yeah. You can see the whole squad's moving in the right direction. They're all moving together, and he's managed to get the fans with him as well. You can sense that despite the fact that Arsenal didn't come away with a trophy, there's a lot of pride around the Arsenal fans. Just because for so many years, like you said, when he took over, we was in a very bad position. Like,
yeah,
scraping 8th every now and then. Like, just nowhere near where Arsenal should be as a club. And now we've got to a point where, barring this super team that keeps winning everything, we are, up there with one of the best teams in Europe if you're going to go toe-to-toe and look at squads and stuff. So fans can see that. And I feel like, obviously, everyone's going to talk about the trophies and, like, in the end, he didn't win anything. But, you can tell when a team's very close.
Yeah.
So I think we just got to keep going and use that as fuel. We're closer this year than last year. So if you keep going in that trajectory, it's only going to end one way. So.
But it is getting to the point now. Like obviously, I've had no complaint, even though we've not won anything. No complaints from me as a fan with the team now. Like I think we've done absolutely amazing, and like you said, it's better than the year before.
Yeah.
But it will come to the question now: if we don't win anything again next year, like you can't. There's got to be a point where you can't just keep winning. You can't just keep improving and playing better.
Yeah.
We need to win something next year. Arsenal need to win a trophy next year, as well as playing. If it's not the Prem, win something and keep pushing like we have this year. Like it's I think next year's the point where you start saying, right, we're playing well. Like it's time to win.
It is time to win. It is time to win. I think we make it hard for ourselves in terms of the FA Cup and the League Cup, how we went out of that very early, because now it becomes a big task. You've got to go and try and win the Prem or the Champions League, and those are, you know how it works.
Yeah.
You saw how long it took City to win that, despite how good they are, the Champions League I'm talking about. And then to win the Prem, you'd have to be better than City over 38 games. So definitely the ambition has to be the Prem and the Champions League, especially how close we came to the Prem the last couple of years. And when you look at the teams in Europe as well, there's no reason why with a bit more experience Arsenal can't push in the Champions League as well. But I think Arteta would give himself a bit of relief of pressure if he could get a cup run going, especially in the FA Cup, because it just gives you a chance at a trophy. Like this year, for example, the season we'd had, let's say we went so close in the Prem, done all right in the Champions League. If we'd got to the FA Cup final and won that, all of a sudden it's a very decent season. So I think moving into next year, because we did the same thing last year in terms of crashed out of Europa League, crashed out of the FA Cup, League Cup. Next year he's got to be trying to progress in as many competitions as possible just to give him a chance, because like you said, end of the season, if we come with no trophies, you're going to have to start asking questions, because yes, it's nice to play good football, it's nice to see progress, but Arsenal have to be a club that are aspiring to winning trophies. So
yeah, and the club, you said you're going to have to start asking questions. I reckon the staff and especially the players over the summer will be thinking, like, where did it go wrong? Was it the Villa result? Was it that poor form at Christmas? Was it we don't have a striker who can get 25, 30 goals? Like, or is it the fact we've just couldn't really do much else against a Man City side that, let's be honest, have got loads of allegations against them, spent billions of pounds, and they've just taken over football.
Yeah, well, obviously,
because they'll be thinking that, the players will be thinking that, won't they, over the summer? Like, where have we slipped up? Like, what could we have done better?
Yeah, there's no doubt that City are, a machine in the Premier League, and it's gonna be difficult for anyone to try and compete with them. But it'd be very hard to become the dominant side in the Premier League, but it's not impossible to win a Premier League here and there. Liverpool showed it a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah.
And Arsenal can definitely do it. So I think as much as City have got their stuff going on, that's not something you can control.
But the Premier League do need to sort that out.
Yeah, that's the Premier League's job is to sort that out for sure. I'm saying the Arsenal players and Arteta, of course, it's unfair and all of that, but they've got to look at themselves. Is it the Villa game? I personally don't put too much on that. I think that run in Christmas gave us a mad job to do this year, where we lost to Fulham, lost to West Ham, and then we went from first on Christmas Day to fourth on New Year's Day. Yeah, and then at one point we was 8 points behind Liverpool or something like that.
Is that the squad depth really? Do you think?
Potentially,
because I'm looking at us. We should be turning them teams over, and maybe it's
up until then we were good, doing all right, and then we just had a blip where
there's a lot of games at Christmas.
Yeah, Fulham we went 1-0 up, I think, and then just lost. And then we didn't look good either. We deserved to lose that game. West Ham at home, I think we was all right in that game, but just again, there wasn't the cutting edge. So
whereas City have that luxury to take Doku out and put Grealish in, whereas we don't.
And I think that's where we need to try and get to their level. Obviously, you can never have a squad depth as much as them, but you got to try and get as close to that as possible, because some of the players this year have been, run into the ground. And yes, they can do it because they're professional and they can turn up, but can they do it at 100% intensity every single game? It's asking a lot of them.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing, just touching on Man City again, like I mentioned that the Premier League need to sort out what's going on, because it's been 2 years now since they've like got charged with these allegations, 115, and they've won what, two leagues since they've been charged.
Yeah.
So it's starting to be like the players will be. Listen, the players still have to turn up. The recruitment still have to get the right players, regardless of whether they've cheated or not. But it is like a little cloud over their achievements a bit at the moment. Do you not think
it's a cloud over City's achievements? Because you can, like, as much as they're setting records and winning 4 in a row, there's no like mad buzz around it. It's almost like, okay, yeah, that's what they've done. They've spent ridiculous amounts of money. They should win the league.
It's an easy excuse to just throw at them, innit?
Yeah, I think
of why you're so
it
good.
Definitely clouds what City are doing, and for the integrity of the Premier League, they need to sort it out, because, you know, the Premier League's never been a competition where you get 6 out of 7 Premier Leagues won by one team. And don't get me wrong, if they'd fully done it without any sort of dodgy business, if they'd just literally earned it, then hands up. But because of how tough the Premier League is, it'd be very difficult to just earn that by playing completely fair. So you do have to ask the question, why is it that they're so dominant? And you look at all these charges and stuff, 115 is a lot of charges. You can't tell me that at least 5 of those don't stick. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they have to look at it, because it's clouding City's achievements, and it's just ruining the integrity of the league, I think, at the minute, because everyone's just looking at it as, okay, they're going to win it because they've got 115 offences, but it's never going to be sorted out. Yeah,
and it is a tricky one to, like, because you do want to just say, right, the achievements don't mean as much, but like I mentioned just a second ago, you do have to still recruit the right players, get them to buy into your system, and at the end of the day, they've still got to go on the pitch and perform. It's 100%. Not like because we've all been bought for loads of money that I'm automatically going to perform well.
Yeah, we've seen Chelsea recently spent over $1 billion, and it's not got them anywhere near what they would have wanted. So definitely, Pep's doing a great job. You still have to recruit correctly. You still have to create a system for players to play at their best and go and win games. It's not hard. It's not easy to go and win as many games as they do in the Premier League and stuff like that. So they are still, you know, doing well, but I think it'd be great for their sake as well as the league's sake if they can just sort out these charges,
put it to bed,
and everyone know where they stand, and then go from there. Because it's like, it can't be fun for them knowing that they're winning, they're doing all of this. They won the treble last year. They've gone 4 in a row Prems now, and it's kind of like
they want it gone, didn't they? Like they need it just put to bed.
Yeah, it's because it definitely puts like a little star next to their achievements at the moment, and you'd want it to just be put to bed so that we know where we stand.
Yeah. Would you say this is their most impressive title win? Out of the whatever they've got, 6 in recent years. For me,
it's up there.
Yeah,
it's up there. One of the ones that Liverpool pushed them all the way.
Yeah, for me it is. I think because that, like you said, it is. They've been pushed again really hard by Arsenal. I think there's been. Liverpool have also pushed them as well. Yeah, and then it's off the back of the treble. That's the big thing for me. Yeah. You got to look. Yeah. You got to look at that. People don't realise how much that is so hard to
go again,
to motivate yourself. Like after you've just done so well for years and years as well. What's that? That's 4 in a row. Like, it's actually crazy how they've done it. Like, I think it's their most impressive one by a mile. If you take the context of everything into account.
Yeah. You definitely can't ignore how, as a player, how tough it would be to win the treble. Especially that was their 3rd in a row already, and then to go away summer, enjoy yourself, and then come back and just go again to try and win it again. It's not easy. Like a lot of players will need a lot to push them to go again, and it's credit to the manager as well for being literally just as hungry to go and do it. So
I think the competition helps that as well. That's like him bringing in new players. It helps keep the standards high, doesn't it?
100%. Because straight away it's like, let's say for example, and I'm not saying this happened to Grealish, but let's say his standards fall off a little bit after he comes back from winning the treble. If there's no one there, he's just got to play anyways, and then the standards falling. Whereas if there's someone like Doku who's there, hungry, hasn't won a Premier yet, he's trying to make a name for himself, he's coming in to push, straight away Grealish has to level up and compete with that, otherwise he isn't playing. So that goes a long way. Yeah,
definitely. And so we just mentioned they won it 4 times. They've won it just off the back of a treble. And with the relegation, the 3 teams that got promoted all got relegated, I believe.
Yeah.
So You look at that and you think, right, they've won it. The same team's won it 6 out of 7. Is the Premier League getting a bit boring? Like, have they sort of ruined? Are they ruining football a bit? That's a question that's being asked by a lot of people.
Yeah.
But for me, it's been. I've actually really enjoyed the season. Like, I think it's been a top season.
I think you could say it's getting a little bit boring, but at the same time, if you listen to the shouts of who's saying it's getting boring, there's usually a common denominator of who those fans are. It's usually it's the fans of teams that aren't anywhere near competing at the minute, and therefore for them it's boring to see Arsenal push City all the way and then City win it in the end and stuff. But their team's not involved. Like, a lot of other teams' fans tried to give us stick for the fact that we've gone all the way, didn't win it, whatever. But like you've just said, it's still enjoyable to watch your team perform week in, week out, win games that they should win games that are tough games, go away to Old Trafford and just win in second gear and stuff like that. Like, that is still entertaining to watch if it's your team. So it's not, I think it'd be very difficult to kill the Premier League because of just the quality and the amount of good teams in there. But you don't want the end result to be predictable. You don't want to look at next season and say, okay, the 3 teams coming up will probably just go straight back down and City will win the league. Yeah. And then Arsenal might push to come second, and then the top 4 is probably going to be the most interesting. Like, I don't think
you want genuine multiple
you want the Premier
the
League to be honest, today this season's title race has been very good.
Yeah,
like, it's been one of the best of recent years in terms of up until the last, I think, 6 games, there was 3 teams still in it.
Yeah.
And then right until the last day, 2 teams still there. Like, that doesn't always happen. So it's just the fact that City won in the end that makes it look now like, okay, it was predictable. But otherwise, it was a genuine title race.
And there was teams battling for top 4 till the end.
Right till the end, exactly. So it actually was like an entertaining...
More entertaining season than it looks at the end, doesn't it?
Exactly. I think the fact that City just won it at the end, the 3 teams that came up got relegated, that just makes it look like on paper it was just predictable. But Luton was there right till the end. Arsenal was there right till the end. And Spurs gave Villa something to think about. And in the end, Villa qualified for the Champions League in the first time in however many years. So the Premier League's not dead, definitely. But yeah, it would be more interesting if there was a bit more variety in the end result.
Yeah. Do you think they're the best Premier League team ever? This current Man City team?
This is the thing, though, with the charges.
Charges aside.
It's difficult to...
Yeah.
Because you want to say... Charges aside, I'd say yes, because no one's been able... yes, Arsenal had the invincible season, which still hasn't been done yet. Ferguson
weren't as dominant as this, though. Ferguson had a dominant Man United side.
That was dominant over a season, but not in terms of over years. I'm talking about the Arsenal team.
Yeah.
Ferguson had a dominant United side over several seasons, for sure. And
they won leagues, like we were talking about. They've won 6 out of 7 City, but that United team, the Ferguson team, they won leagues very comfortably as well, like extremely comfortably.
Yeah.
Whereas City, they haven't. It's not been like this year. They've not looked their best in terms of their play, and I don't think they've just won games when they needed to.
For sure, I'd just say that's to do with the level of Arsenal and the competition, because 91 points I think they ended up with. That still
wins it most years.
That wins nearly every Premier League pretty much. So they've accumulated a lot of points. I think it's just the fact that there's been a team right there. If Arsenal, for example, didn't do what they did and City won the league 3 or 4 weeks before, then it looks a lot different. I think the times where Fergie was doing it, possibly the competition wasn't as fearsome as it is now. But yeah, I'd probably say, charges aside, you'd have to say it's this team, because no one's done it before like this.
Yeah, let's just hope that, I mean, it's the part. Let's hope that Pep, I think he's going to leave within the next year or 2. Part of me doesn't want him to and wants Arsenal to almost beat this Pep team, but it would be nice just to, Pep, give us a chance, mate, please.
Well, it's his last year on his contract.
Next year, isn't it?
So that gives Arsenal a chance to do it then, and then give him something to think about. Would he go on a...
But it seems like he's already thinking about it at the moment. Like he's almost like, in his press conference at the end, he was like, it's hard to keep motivating him after. Like, what else is there to do now?
Yeah, you understand, and especially with the charges over their heads, he'll know more about it than any of us know. It could be a case for him where it's like, okay, contract's running out. What else is there to do?
Does he retire though? I don't think he's. I can't see him retiring.
Can't see him retiring.
I can't see him going to Spain, like as the national manager, international manager, because he would want more time with the team. I don't think he'd like. That's not. I really don't think. That's
I get that. I just think, isn't that like, if you're a top manager, it's like on the bucket list technically, isn't it, to manage a national team? I don't know if he'd go straight away though. I think he looks at the Spain squad and don't like it as well at the moment. Like, it's not at his best, is it? No, you're right with that. Yeah. And he's very selective where he goes. He's very selective. So
where would he go? Italy maybe? PSG?
I think he'd probably take a break and then see what opens up. Yeah. Football changes quickly.
Yeah, it's true.
And he doesn't just go anywhere random. He likes to see what's happening. So I could see him just literally taking 2 years out and then assessing the situation, and then I don't know where he'd go after that though.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just depends who's doing well and where the money's at, I guess.
Yeah. If he ain't got enough already. But listen, the season's finished, right? Phil Foden got named Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, even as if you didn't need any more proof, what he done on the last day just cements that.
Scored in what? Yeah, a minute and a half.
Scores an absolute screamer, goes and gets another one after. So, someone winning it from the title winning team, and he's probably been their best player this season. I don't think anyone can argue that.
Yeah, he has been so good this year, by the way. Like, it's just, when people forget that, like, Bryon and Haaland got injured for a period as well, when he stepped up and carried that team. Like, he got vital wins.
You think that last year he wasn't even playing really.
No.
So, you know what I mean? Like, this is what we talk about in terms of the squad depth and in terms of them being able to go and do it again and again and again. A player like that wasn't playing last season.
Yeah, mate.
So he comes into this season and he's got a point to prove. So straight away, if you've got a player like that that's coming in hungry to prove a point, you're going to have quality in the team. You're not relying on people that are lacking motivation because they just won the treble. So it's mad. But yeah, he's been their best player. De Bruyne only played half a season. Haaland had a good season. I feel like he set his standards so high last year that another golden boot seems like it was underwhelming, which is mad to say. But
well, it was underwhelming because it, like, in context, do you know what I mean? In comparison,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's because of the standards he set last year. It seems underwhelming, but it's like for anyone else, if they'd scored 27 goals and won the 27 and 31 as well, he didn't play all like 38. Anyone else with that goal ratio, it's like, what a season. But
5 assists.
Him, exactly. So, yeah, of course, it wasn't as thrilling as last year, but to come back, if that's your like poor season, then that's scary as well. But yeah, Foden head and shoulders above the rest, I think.
Yeah, and I think Saka was only 5 or 6 like goal involvement, like goal or assists off Foden this year. So that shows as well, because Foden has been probably the best season he's had by a long way, really.
Yeah,
he was the player of the season by a bit of a way as well. So that shows how good Saka's been.
Yeah,
even though he's sort of not been his best year.
Saka's in a similar boat to Haaland in the sense that on paper it's an underwhelming season, but numbers wise he's still right up there. So, like, we all know how good he is.
Success.
Yeah, we all know how good Saka is. I think perhaps it's just the load that we was talking about earlier. Let's get into him. And he had I'd say towards the end it's not been his best.
Yeah.
He started really well. Towards the end it's not been his best, but he's been very good this season, in my opinion.
Who's been Arsenal's most important player, do you think? Because for me there's 2, but there's one that's just.
I'd say Saliba. I'd say Rice and Odegaard have been very consistent as well all season. If I was going to pick one, I'd pick Saliba. But
to be fair, I didn't actually even have Saliba in my thing.
Yeah,
I was thinking Odegaard, man.
Odegaard's been class though, like just so good to watch every single game. Like, he's rarely had a game where he literally didn't turn up. And Rice has been so important as well. Don't know. I think Saliba has hit levels at like pretty much every single game. Can you remember a poor game he's had?
And he's played, I think it's the first time
he's played every single minute of the season
of every single game.
Yeah,
like,
it's just crazy.
And he obviously hasn't got injured.
No suspensions.
He's never looked tired. He's never looked like, Rice can sometimes look leggy. Yeah. Odegaard sometimes as well. I know he's like just rats about everywhere. But he's what, 20?
He's 22, I think.
Yeah.
Or 23. Yeah.
I mean, hopefully someone like Real Madrid don't come sniffing, because you can see him going to a big team like that.
Problem with those clubs is who turns that down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they did come, then it'd be a problem. But yeah, I'd say between them three, I wouldn't argue with any of them. If you said Arsenal's best player was Odegaard or Rice or Saliba, I wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate.